Hello and welcome to the Pearly Eye Review. I'm PJ, and earlier today I got the chance to see Spider-Man Far From Home. Here's my ticket. And let's start off with the review. Spider-Man Far From Home pretty much picks up where Endgame left off. Peter is trying to deal with the aftermath of, in Spider-Man they call it the blip rather than the snap, trying to readjust to being home, being alive again, and being a normal teenager. He sort of has PTSD. He's feeling the pressure of being in Tony Stark's shadow. Everywhere he goes, he's reminded of Tony. And he feels like if he goes on this class trip, it can help him sort of take a break from being Spider-Man and being a hero and being reminded of Tony. Returning characters and actors, Tom Holland, Peter Parker Spider-Man, Zendaya as Michelle, but in this movie she's dressed as MJ. Jacob Batalon, I hope I'm saying his last name right, plays Ned Leeds. Jon Favreau as Happy. And I'm pretty much naming off the important characters in this movie. And the newcomers are Samuel L. Jackson, who we know who plays Nick Fury. He's been in the other films, but never in a Spider-Man film. Kobe Smulders, who plays Hill. She's the lady who usually partners up with Nick Fury. And Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio. I'm going to start off with my dislikes. The things that I didn't like were the teachers. It's funny because I really liked the teachers in Spider-Man Homecoming, but in this film, I felt like the teachers were in the way and their jokes just didn't land for me. They were just unfunny. JB Smoove and Martin Starr, I believe, is the other teacher. They weren't ghastly annoying, but it was just like, okay, let the joke die, especially if it's not that funny. Just say your lines and just move on from it. They just have to, I feel like they just keep going on and on about trying to make a joke work when it really doesn't. The whole thing with Ned and Betty, Peter's friend Ned, and his other classmate Betty Brant, just, okay, if their relationship was going to go nowhere in the first place, why try to bring it up? I just felt like the whole Betty and Ned thing was just so unnecessary and silly. And also, this is going to be a spoiler review. I think everybody has seen Spider-Man Far From Home by now, so I'm going to be spoiling everything. I think an unnecessary character, they really need to drop Flash. I don't find him funny anymore. He's annoying and not. I don't know. I don't know what they can do with this character. I'm really flashed out. I'm just really done with this character. It's just it looks like Peter at this point can really beat up Flash because I don't see him as a threat to Peter, and it's just he's just so unnecessary at this point. Along with Peter and his high school friends, it's, for me, I kind of felt like this in the first film. It's getting to that point where we need to get Spider-Man out of high school. I don't even want to see him in college. I mean, they're believable as high school kids, but I prefer to just get him out of school because some of his friends are just so unnecessary. It's just getting to that point, for me at least. And here's a spoiler. The whole Nick Fury cameo with the Skrulls, the Skrulls all along were pretending to be Nick Fury. That wasn't really Nick Fury. It was the Skrulls. So Nick Fury is up in space with the Skrulls, pretty much governing and telling them what to do. That's sort of like his new shield, and that sort of took away with Peter getting close to Nick Fury and partnering up with him. If I were Sam, I don't know if Samuel Jackson agreed to this, but if I were him, I would have told him, no, I'm not doing that scene. It really makes no sense. That really bummed me out, and that really didn't make any sense to me. Okay, now let's start off with my life. I really, really loved Tom Holland. I liked him in Civil War when he first made his appearance as Spider-Man. In the MCU, they have finally gotten Spider-Man correct. Finally, at least the teenage version, and I feel in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse they got the adult version correct. I just love him as the live action Spider-Man, Tom Holland. He really seems authentic to me and very natural. His relationships with the his classmates that actually do matter. Ned leads his best friend. I love their relationship, their banter between each other. I just love the friendship between them. Now, here's the character I did not like in the first film. Michelle, who was played by Zendaya. Now, her real name, they're call in this film they're calling her MJ. Now, her real name, if I'm not mistaken about her last name, it's Michelle, and her last name is Jones, I think. And now they're calling her MJ. Why not just make her Mary Jane? I still don't understand that. But anyways, she's being referred to as MJ in this film. I thought their relationship really mattered because it actually went somewhere. It's very adorable. It's cute. They're awkward. They're awkward at first, and then they blossom into a real relationship. She really is a good friend to him, and later on becoming his girlfriend, she supports him and really helps him out and encourages him, to be confident, be a better Spider-Man. That is what MJ has always been for him, especially in the comic books. Well, at least that version of MJ. Overall, like I said, they do seem like real teenagers. They're not 30-year-olds trying to be trying to play teenagers like in the Sam Raimi films. Although Tobey Maguire was in his 20s, but he was just way too old to be playing a teenager. These young, well, 20-year-olds actually do look age appropriate. Jake Gyllenhaal, I love what they did with Mysterio. I really enjoyed it. I love the change. It needed to happen because they needed to make him fit within the MCU world. And it really made sense. Instead of him being a washed up actor or stunt guy who worked at Wonder Studios, he's actually a former employee that was fired by Tony Stark, scientist, a tech guy, an engineer type guy who got fired by Tony Stark and, of course, wants revenge. And here's the thing, because we know his past of being a skeezer in the comic books, even though he was an actor in the comic books, and now he's sort of like an engineer scientist type guy in the MCU this version. I already knew that he wasn't what he was claiming to be, that he was some hero from another planet. I'm like, he is lying. I'm like, if you know this character, like, you automatically know. If you know the comic books, it's so that he was lying. It wasn't a shock to me. And I just wonder about people that don't know Spider-Man. Were you guys, did it shock you that I wonder if it really, it was a big spoiler or shocker for you guys. I wasn't shocked, and I'm not mad about that because I'm like, he is just, because you just know the character, and he's lying about who he is, and the big reveal, I thought it was very cool. I'm gonna get back to Mysterio, but I want to talk a little bit about the music. The music was very good. I liked it okay in Homecoming. I think it was better because the underscore music is whenever it's not, the scenes aren't being fast paced and they're just talking. There's a nice little melody. It's sweet and simple, especially when Peter and MJ are talking. It sounds very nice, and I think they really improved on the music. Now, jumping back to Jake Gyllenhaal, and this involves the whole CGI. The Mysterio effects whenever he's making an illusion, I couldn't wait for that because back in the 90s, there, I wish I had written down the name of the episode. I think it was Enter Mysterio, the 1994 Spider-Man. That's actually my favorite cartoon adaptation of him. There's an episode, of course, as I said, of Mysterio, and I always imagined what would it be like if Mysterio were in a live action version. And in this movie, man, I'm telling you, when he's doing the illusions on Spider-Man and Spider-Man can't tell what's real, what's happening, he's just getting pulverized by Mysterio. It was fantastic. And it's more that I could I could ever dream of. I always would imagine this, even in, when you see the comic books, like, how would this look if this were live action? This is bananas. It's just, there's a part where he is being tortured by Mysterio, and it's just out of this world. Also, with this CGI, the effect, the fighting has gotten better. I was a little, I liked what he was doing, but when he first made his appearance in Civil War, I liked what he was doing, but how he looked, Spider-Man looked kind of rubbery, and then that transition over to Homecoming, he was looking a little rubbery. I'll say this: I never really liked the Amazing Spider-Man series with Andrew Garfield, but one thing they had going with the that version of Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield is they had Spider-Man's movements on point. The special effects looked amazing. It looked like he was jumping out of the comic books. I'm like, that is how he's supposed to move. Even though that wasn't my favorite series, but they had the effects of Spider-Man's movements down in that version. Whereas in the Sam Raimi version and this version, he was kind of rubbery and looked really fake. I tell you, they have improved on this in Far From Home. Oh my god, where I always wanted, like, stop trying to make Spider-Man pretty, make it to where his suit rips apart. He's, there's a point where Spider-Man is on fire and he can't really get a chance to put himself out, and he's trying to fight and move with these drones, these killer drones and stuff. He's jumping and trying to, it's like a swarm of them. They're all over him and they're hitting him, you know blazers, and he's on fire. As I said, my God, it's just, you have to see it to believe it. It's just, I started to sit up in my seat, and it was like, God, this is like the comic books. I'm like, this is how he moves. And also, sometimes Spider-Man's webbing goes out. That actually happens. I actually like that happens. He can't always rely on his his webbing, because sometimes his webbing goes out and he has to think on his feet. He has to use objects around him. Well, there is some point where, before the webbings get broken, his web shooters, he has to use objects. He makes a makeshift shield and like a bomb from one of the devices that fell from the drones, the killer drones. And he throws it right back at him, and it makes a bomb, and it blows them all up. And he uses a shield. And I'm like, from a abandoned car. I think it was, from an abandoned car. It's just his movements, the way he moves. It's just so agile and quick, like he is in the comic books. And also that final climax fight with Jake Gyllenhaal Mysterio, where Spider-Man has to, he can't, he has nothing else but his spider senses. I like that they're bringing that up, to rely on at this point, because he can't tell what's real, because Mysterio is doing that special effects thing, illusions. So Spider-Man can't tell what's real, and he's like, okay, he calls it spider tingle, but it's actually his spider sense. And it reminded me again back to the 90s Spider-Man, that episode with Mysterio, where Spider-Man is like, listen, I got to use my spider sense. I don't know what's real, but I got to make it right. Because in the cartoon, there was like a row of different Mysterios, like so many of them surrounding him, and then Spider-Man used his spider senses to warn him which one was the dangerous one. So he just goes for it and punches him, and there it is. There's Quentin. And that's sort of, it wasn't a bunch of Mysterios in this version, but he dodges all the illusions, which are really the killer drones in disguise. He, knocks them, blows them all up, and finally gets to Mysterio, and then, takes him out. Jesus, man, this was just, again, just out of this world. I think that with the fighting, finally got him down. And what I like is that he's not relying too much on the start tech. It's just him using his wits, and I like that. It's he's not too much of Iron Spidey anymore. And I like that. Spider-Man he's a very smart character, and that's what I always admired about him. And sometimes he has to use his brain. He has to find an alternate route to defeat a bad guy. sometimes he doesn't always have weapons or you know, the help that he needs. It's just him, and he's got to find a way to save himself and save his loved ones by himself. He did that. Overall, I think this is a must see. You gotta go and see this, especially if you're a Spider-Man fan. This was really, really fun, and I enjoyed this film. Jeez, man, I'm very pleased. Oh, and also that, let's talk about the big spoiler at the end. I nearly jumped out of my seat when I saw this. Oh my god, J.K. Simmons. You know who J.K. Simmons is if you've seen the Sam Raimi versions of Spider-Man. J. Jonah Jameson is back. He's J. Jonah Jameson, although he doesn't have the flat top and you know, bushy mustache, 70s mustache, but it's him. I'll take him any way he wants to come. I'm just, oh my god, I clapped, I squealed a little bit. I went too loud. But it was like, yes, he's back, and he revealed Spider-Man's identity. I'm like, that's such a J. Jonah Jameson thing, because Mysterio's people, the other employees that were fired or I guess just had issues with Tony Stark, that left the company or got fired or whatever, that were working with Jake Gyllenhaal's character, Quentin Beck, the former employees of Stark. One of them, also I like about this movie, they give nods back to Iron Man 1 and Civil War. He was again a former employee that was, this guy was working with Quentin Beck, Mysterio, got some footage of Spider-Man, fixed it so where it could frame Spider-Man and made it look like Spider-Man was the one that was commanding these killer drone robots, and made it like he was the one who had killed Mysterio. And he gave that footage to J. Jonah Jameson to reveal his true identity. I'm like, holy Moses. And I'm like, J. Jonah Jameson would be the one to reveal it. How are they going to do this? Is Spider-Man 3 or whatever coming soon? Because they left it like, holy badoli. They left it open. Or is Spider-Man going to have a cameo in the next Avengers movie? And they're going to, you know, sort of fix this? Because I don't believe he's going to keep... They're going to try and find a way to fix it so where it'll look like an illusion, like everybody thinks Peter Parker is Spider-Man. They have to fix that, because Peter's still young. I don't think he can handle all the attention of being Spider-Man. And I believe this has happened in the comic book before, where people thought, where he accidentally got revealed, and I'm talking about way, way back, and then he had to pretend like he wasn't Spider-Man or something like that. But there was the time where he actually did reveal himself, and that really angered me, which was so stupid. Yeah, but I think there was one way back in the day, not the recent ones, where he willingly revealed himself. But you know, where they did a switcheroo and he pretended that he really wasn't Spider-Man to protect his identity. I think that happened. But he is at the moment revealed to the world that he is Spider-Man. I don't know how is that gonna stay, or are they gonna try and fix it? So J. Jonah Jameson doesn't know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. I really love that big spoiler at the end of this movie. That's the icing on the cake for me. Again, this is a must-see. People have got to see Spider-Man Far From Home. I thoroughly enjoyed this, and I think people should go and see it.
So what did you think of Spider-Man Far From Home? Did you think it was better than Spider-Man Homecoming? I thought it was. I really enjoyed this film, and the big stinger spoilers at the end. In a few weeks, I do plan on going to see the live action version of The Lion King. I'm not a huge fan of the Disney live action remakes, but surprisingly I actually enjoyed Aladdin. I think that was the first live action version I actually really liked. So I'm wondering what will be my reaction when I go and see The Lion King. And please check out my past reviews. I did a review of the live action version of Dumbo, and also Aladdin. So please check those out and like and subscribe. Okay, thank you. And thanks.